One of my favorite things to do is to use Koala. Sometimes, however, and I don't do this a lot, but sometimes the iPad instruments just bore me. And I'll be honest, actually, that's a lot of times, partly because it's very limiting on what you have options to. And the stuff that you have is pretty good, especially if you like effects and synths. But when you really want something that just like wows me or something that's just like, ooh, that sounds really good, tend to go to the desktop. And Omnisphere and Trillion are probably two of my most used plugins. I think they just sound phenomenal, and it depends on what you're trying to do. Now, I will say Omnisphere, I use it mostly for the pads and textural stuff. Tom Wolfe stuff is my primary go-to when it comes to the Omnisphere. But if you don't have Omnisphere, Pigments is my runner-up. It's right there. Really, they're like 1A, 1B sort of. So they both sound extremely well. And Tom Wolfe makes presets for both. So if you're interested in that, check out his presets um, for Pigments, which I think I've done a few demos on. But anyway, one of the things I like in Koala is there's a lot of freeness to do what you want to do as far as playing, especially with audio, obviously. And not everything has to be sampled, but sometimes you can sample in different things. And that's what I did here. So I used this patch called Eternity. And I'm using D minor, right? And so I made this sample here by recording in just some random playing in scale of D minor, though, that is. Which, if you have like a Novation launch key MIDI controller, you can lock the scale, so it makes it quite easy to play in scale. But it's still me just playing for 16 bars. Now, this is set at 68 BPM. Originally, when I played it in, I did not play it at 68 BPM. I just played it in, right? I didn't have anything, no time stretch was on there. So you can see it's moving faster. But when I put time stretch on there, I could have put it at 8 bars, which would probably be okay. 4 bars is probably where it's at, but I stretched it to 16. And what that did was give me a little more of that ambient vibe, mellow. So it stretched it there. That became the introduction, which is fine, 16 bars. So then if you go over to this main part, you'll see I didn't time stretch it, partly because it's way more than 16 bars. It's about 24 bars, but I can't stretch, which is something I hope that they will add and allow me to have at least, it'd be nice to be able to stretch 64 bars on something just to get more out of it. But anyway, it is what it is. One way to fix that is you could divide this, make chops, in other words, at certain points. Like if I chopped it at maybe this point, I could do these first bars as like 4, and then do the last as maybe well, no, technically I couldn't do that because it's 24 bars, so that's like 12 and 12. So I could chop it in some way to give me the 24. Now the easiest way to do that probably is going to be going into auto chop and do equals. And then you can drop this down to maybe, like, if you want to do divisions of 4, you could do that. Chop it up into 4 parts, and then take those 4 parts and put them back together, right? So that you have the 24, but they're separated into 4 chops. That's one way you could do it. You could go less, put whatever you want. But anyway, just showing you that. I didn't do any of that, I'll be honest. I left it at 24, set this for 24, and then what I did over here on the next part might amaze you a little bit or not, is I took a portion of that same sample and I made kind of a drone out of it. I reversed it, put some attack on it, add a little bit of release, and turn the tone back and stretched it to 16 bars. Then I pitched it down to 6 semitones, or down 6 semitones, which I think sounds pretty good. So I like it. And then I think it works when you put it back in with this. So here it is with 16 bars. The first 4 bars I kind of left open. That's more than 4, isn't it? I said first 4 bars. I think that's 8. Yeah, so the first 8 bars, I should say, I left open. So then it sounds kind of like this. So you can see it's going into the intro of this previous sample, which I'm not going to open. It'll stop it. But you can see when it turns white, that means it's playing. Now watch how it goes into this drone, adding it in. Because the attack is set so much higher, it's going to be slower. But it's still there, watch. Right? See, now there's the drone going in reverse. All right, you don't have to hear the whole thing to get the point. So then the next thing I did was I took the intro and made it an outro. Take a look. So I shortened it a little bit here, stretched it 16. And then I took the drone, the same drone that's going backwards, and I just lowered the volume a little bit. It's the same everything, just lower volume. Put those two together and made this. Now I'm not going to play the whole thing for you. I think you get the idea. So the way I would arrange this is I usually use the last bar over here, and then I add to the end. Drop that one in, add to the end, and now you have an arrangement of 56 bars. Now, what in the world is 56 bars? The way I like to do it is just go export, because unfortunately I can't even tell you what 56 bars is at 68 BPM. I would have to, I'm not that good. And then, so I'm going to go current sequence, and then I'm fine with it being mixed. That's one way you could do it if you want to get the time. So I'm just going to go, we'll put it into my folder here. We'll just go save, call it the right space at time and time. All right. So now if we go to this folder, let me see if I can pull it up and go down here and we open it up. You can see that's 3 minutes and 18 seconds. So that's nice for. Now in Koala, I'm not going to edit they don't have fade points on the end, so I can't edit the sample in here, but I could send this, if I wanted to, the parts over to Ableton really easy and finish it. I'll fast forward. See what it sounds like on this. So it kind of fades out and then back into. Now, the one thing I would do differently, I just wanted to show you guys what the length of the time was here. So that's all you need from that. The one thing I would do different in a DAW that this can't really, well, maybe it could, but it would be a lot of work trying to figure out how to do it because we only see blocks. What I would do in a DAW that's different is I would actually be able to have crossfades and things of that nature that you don't have in Koala. So I tend to use Koala more as a start point to get ideas together, and then I move into Ableton. But why would I do that on a computer? Well, maybe I'm just not in the mood to go into Ableton right now, or I hear a certain thing that I just want to do real quick. Ableton requires me to set up a template, which I have already built, but with this, I could just be playing around with whatever, come up with something I like, and then just record it right into Koala. Then just go in and export, and you can share Ableton Drum Rack or Ableton Live Set. So all my samples could go that way, or I could just export the current sequence and then stem it out, right? So the options are there. So I do use Koala probably more on my iPhone than I do on the iPad. I use it more on the iPad than I do on the desktop. But the desktop is a great option if you don't have the iPad and iPhone and you just want to do some cool, quick ideas, little note taking for maybe a part or two that you want to make a song with. Perhaps these are separate parts and they don't even need to be in the same song. That could be true too. Whatever the case may be, the options are endless and you don't really have as much editing ability in Koala, but you do have the ability to at least get ideas going. And that is half the battle most of the time with making music. It's finding an idea. I love Koala for sample chopping. I think it's one of the easiest and best when it comes to that. But don't what's the word? Don't stifle yourself in thinking that's all it can do. You can do other stuff. And you can use it sort of like a memo, kind of like what people do for notes where they take notes on something and then they come back and refer to it. So you could do it that way. It could become like if you were going into, for instance, let's go to my Keyscape library. And let's say we wanted to get into these felt pianos. We'll go with this one. And you just wanted to record. That was interesting, but so it's an amazing note taker that you can jot down some cool, quick points when you just want to play something and you're not trying to sit around and say, what was the MIDI of that? What was the. You just want to jot down some ideas. Ideas end up turning into something maybe down the road, and you never know. Or chordal things. Now, if you have a thing like Ableton, it can take those ideas and or even Scalar 2 or Scalar 3. You can drop them in and find out what chords you're playing because maybe you just don't know what chords you were playing at the moment. You were just feeling it, right? Which is half the time with me. I don't know what I'm playing. But anyway, I'm just playing. But the point is that you have that as an option. Now, what would be cool, and I have to say this, and I think I want this in everything. That's the reason why I keep saying this. But skip back, or not skip back. Yeah, sort of like skip back on MP on the SP404, a version of that where if I play something on it's MIDI capture on Logic and Ableton, but some type of form of audio skip back would be cool inside of Koala. To where I could play pads even or play something in here and it just captures that audio. But also, like if I come up with some little, watch this. So I'm using my mic with this little trigger here and coming up with something. Did that with my mouth. See, I just created something I wasn't even planning on doing. Um, I kind of like it though. Put a beat over that or whatever, and then throw some a bass line. Oh my goodness! But anyway, that's the point I'm making is that you can come up with some really unique things and quick things with Koala. You can do this with your phone. You can do this with the iPad. You can do this with desktop. All right. Hope all is well. Hope this encouraged you to keep creating, to keep building, and that's what we do as creators. I'll see you on the next one.